You're not addicted to your phone. You're addicted to being controlled without knowing it. You think you're scrolling for fun, for inspiration, maybe even for knowledge. But behind every swipe is a machine learning more about you than you know about yourself. Every pause, every like, every click, it's all part of a behavioral blueprint you never agree to share. In this digital architecture, you're not just a user. You're the product. And while you believe you're making choices, those choices were quietly made for you long before you open the app. This isn't about paranoia. It's about psychology. Carl Jung warned us, what you refuse to confront within yourself will rule you from the shadows. The same applies to your digital life. The shadow has gone online, and the algorithm is its most loyal mirror. You're no longer navigating the internet. You're being navigated, your desires shaped, your attention harvested, and your inner life sold to the highest bidder. And the worst part, it feels normal. But what if the mind you think is yours has already been colonized? What if your cravings, your opinions, your reactions are not born from soul, but from software? This video is not here to scare you. It's here to wake you up. Because the only way to reclaim your selfhood in the age of predictive AI, dopamine loops, and behavioral tracking is to see the strings before you can cut them. The architecture of surveillance in the digital age. You didn't sign up for this. You were born into it. From the moment you created your first email address or touched a smartphone, your digital body was stitched into the architecture of a global surveillance matrix. And here's the twist. It doesn't need cameras on walls anymore. It lives in pixels, in micro-interactions, in your unconscious behaviors. Scroll speed, hover time, facial expressions on front-facing cameras. Nothing escapes the gaze of predictive AI, trained to mine the depths of the human mind. This isn't paranoia, it's design. UX has become a vessel for behavioral tracking, cloaked in convenience. It used to be that surveillance required effort, guards, gates, and wiretaps. Today, it's invisible, seamless, and polite. That notification that asked for location access, that was a handshake agreement with the algorithm. Apps whisper sweet nothings to your dopamine receptors, while quietly collecting every swipe and stumble. What once required force now thrives in silence. This is neural conditioning disguised as personalization, and your attention is the currency. Just like in Jungian psychology, where the ego pretends to be the self, these platforms simulate freedom while feeding on your behavioral blueprint. Ever noticed how platforms know you better over time? That's not magic. It's machine learning adapting to your shadow self. Every meme you double tap, every video you binge, every ad you skip, it all becomes part of a profile more intimate than your diary. In a way, the algorithm functions like a digital analyst, peering into your inner life, revealing the shadow you've never dared to confront. Jung called it projection. The system calls it engagement. Same wound, different suit. And the kicker? The more it learns, the less you question its influence. Think of how TikTok tailors your For You page within minutes. Or how Spotify suggests songs that feel oddly specific to your mood. This isn't just content. It's a behavioral mirror. The feedback loop tightens, and what you believe to be your taste is often just the most statistically effective method to keep your eyes glued. You aren't just choosing content, you're being chosen by it. The illusion of control persists, but real autonomy is rare. In this system, even rebellion is anticipated, measured, and monetized. And this isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. The integration of biometric data, smart devices, and ambient surveillance means that the walls are not just closing in, they're disappearing entirely. As you move through the digital world, Each step leaves a trail of data breadcrumbs leading back to a self you barely recognize. Just like the archetype of the persona hides the deeper self, these platforms present you to yourself in the way most beneficial to their metrics. But what happens when your shadow starts answering back? That's where the next layer of the trap begins. Algorithms and the hijacking of human attention. Let's not sugarcoat it. Your attention is being farmed. Algorithms weren't designed to inform or enlighten you. They were engineered to hijack your nervous system and keep you scrolling long after your willpower has tapped out. Every tap, every pause, every flick of the thumb is a vote in a silent election where the winner is whatever content can generate the most dopamine. And spoiler alert, it's usually something that pokes your fear, stirs your lust, or fans your outrage. Carl Jung would have called it a playground for the shadow, but Silicon Valley just calls it user attention. We like to believe our feeds are random, spontaneous, maybe even a little serendipitous. But no, what you're seeing has been curated with surgical precision. These systems know your rhythms better than your therapist. They've learned when you're lonely, when you're bored, when you're vulnerable, and they capitalize on it. You think you're just catching up on memes, but in reality, your inner world is being mapped, exploited, and sold. This isn't digital freedom. This is behavioral science wielded as a weapon. It's the art of manipulation turned into algorithmic routine. Take YouTube recommendations. For example, you watch one video on heartbreak, and suddenly you're neck deep in content that confirms your worst fears about relationships. Or you like a post on financial independence, and now you're being sold crypto courses by men in rented Lamborghinis. This isn't coincidence. It's predictive AI using your digital footprint to nudge your beliefs and amplify what's unresolved within you. Just like in psychoanalysis, the unconscious always find a way to surface, except here, it's monetized and branded as personalization. Here's the real trick. Over time, the algorithm doesn't just respond to what you want. It shapes what you want. It carves grooves in your psyche, turning fleeting impulses into habitual behaviors. What begins as curiosity becomes compulsion, and that's how you lose sovereignty over your own mind. The shadow archetype, as Jung described, isn't inherently evil. It's simply unknown. But when algorithms constantly feed it, inflate it, and reward it, you get a mind pulled further from self-awareness and closer to addiction. And while you think you're in control, clicking, liking, reacting, it's really the system that's driving. You're on a loop, engineered to feel like choice. But this loop doesn't end with distraction. It opens into something deeper, more addictive, and far more profitable for the platforms. Because what follows isn't just stolen attention, it's psychological conditioning. And that's where the chemical hooks sink in even deeper. Dopamine loops and psychological conditioning. Let's talk about the drug you never realized you were hooked on, dopamine. Every ping, like, follow, and message, those aren't just notifications, they're neural injections. The human mind, especially the subconscious part Carl Jung obsessed over, is a sucker for patterns. And these platforms, they've mastered the art of creating micro-rewards that hijack your motivational circuits. It's not by chance that you feel a little hit of excitement when your phone buzzes. That's dopamine whispering, do it again. And like any addictive behavior, it becomes automatic before it becomes conscious. This isn't an accident, it's design. App developers literally consult behavioral psychologists to figure out how to trigger your brain's reward system. Just like casinos flash lights and ring bells to keep gamblers hooked, social media offers digital slot machines disguised as likes and views. But here's the kicker. The reward is intermittent. You never know when it'll hit. That unpredictability makes your brain crave the next hit even more. It's the same neural loop that drives substance abuse, only now it lives in your pocket 24/7 under the illusion of connection. Over time, this shapes how you interact with the world. You stop seeking depth and start chasing reaction. A real conversation, too slow. A deep book, too quiet. But a real, instant validation. That's neural conditioning at work, teaching you to prioritize speed over substance, emotion over reflection. The art of living becomes the art of reacting. Jung's shadow isn't just hiding in the dark. It's been gamified and embedded in your timeline. And instead of facing it, we scroll past it again and again, feeding the loop with every flick of the thumb. Think about how many times you've checked your phone without realizing it. That twitch, reaching for your device when you're bored, anxious, or lonely, isn't just habit. It's programming. You've been trained like a Pavlovian dog, but instead of a bell, it's a buzz, a ding, or a red bubble. And what do you get? A fleeting hit of dopamine that keeps the feedback loop alive. This is not just behavioral tracking, it's behavioral training. And the most dangerous part? It's pleasurable. That pleasure hides the control. And once that loop takes hold, something deeper is compromised. Your sense of self. You begin to measure worth through reactions, existence through visibility, and identity through engagement. But if who you are is shaped by algorithms and confirmed by likes, who are you without them? That question, uncomfortable as it is, leads us straight into a confrontation with the parts of ourselves we've avoided for too long. And that's where Carl Jung's teachings meet the digital world head-on. Carl Jung and the digital shadow. Carl Jung taught us that the shadow is the part of ourselves we refuse to see, the denied, the repressed, the inconvenient truths lurking beneath the ego. But in today's digital world, you don't need to meditate or journal to meet your shadow. Just open your phone. The algorithm knows your desires better than your conscious mind does. It feeds you content that aligns not with your values, but with your impulses. It's not asking who you are. It's mirroring who you hide. That's not personalization. That's exposure. The digital self is a curated performance, shaped by persona. But here's the trap. While your online image plays the role of the ego, acceptable, polished, consumable, the content you consume starts speaking directly to the shadow. You might post self-help quotes, but you're binge-watching toxic relationship videos at 2 a.m. You might present confidence, but keep clicking on ads that promise instant validation. Jungian psychology warned us, what we repress returns. The algorithm doesn't suppress it, it monetizes it. And it goes deeper. What you watch, what you scroll past, what you linger on, it forms a digital archetype of your unconscious. This is no longer just content. It's a mirror of the collective unconscious, weaponized for clicks. Platforms are acting like a silent therapist, except they're not helping you heal. They're reinforcing the split. Each click is a confession, and the machine is always listening. But unlike a real psychoanalyst, it doesn't care about your individuation. It cares about your attention span. Think about how many suggested videos pull you into rabbit holes you didn't ask for. You don't remember searching for them, but they're exactly what triggers your fears or secret fantasies. That's not coincidence. That's predictive AI aligning with the emotional currents beneath your awareness. You're not just being manipulated, you're being mirrored. And like a good analyst, the system knows your shadow better the less you do. Except this analyst is sponsored by advertisers, not your growth. And so the battle begins between your curated persona and your neglected shadow. The tension grows. Your feed becomes a battlefield of who you think you are versus who your behavior suggests you've become. But until you confront that tension, it's not just your feed that stays out of balance. It's your sense of self. And while that identity crumbles under digital pressure, something even more dangerous sneaks in: the erosion of free will itself. The illusion of free will in a controlled system. You think you're choosing, but you're being chosen. That's the cruel irony of life inside a predictive system. The illusion of free will is perhaps the most effective trick of modern algorithms. You scroll past hundreds of posts a day, thinking it's random or based on your preferences. But those preferences were shaped by countless invisible nudges. The more you engage, the more the system adapts, fine-tunes, and predicts. And just like Carl Jung said about the unconscious, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The design is brilliant. Give a user the impression of autonomy while controlling every variable behind the curtain. The UX flows, the color psychology, the placement of buttons, all of it is orchestrated to steer you. You don't see it because you're in it. Like the archetype of the puppet who believes he's a real boy, we play out our roles without questioning who's writing the script. And the scariest part? Most people never notice. They just feel vaguely dissatisfied, like something's off, but they can't quite say what. True freedom requires friction. It demands awareness. But the system has been engineered to eliminate friction, to smooth over resistance, to make the path of least awareness the most rewarding. You're not lazy. You're being rewarded for not thinking too hard. Attention spans are trained like muscles, and this system ensures they remain weak. Like a shadow self growing stronger in silence, the illusion becomes your reality. Every behavior is subtly molded, not by desire, but by digital convenience. Want proof? Look at your online behavior over time. What you once disliked, you now tolerate. What you once resisted, you now crave. The feedback loop didn't just predict your behavior, it created it. The mind becomes a reflection of data points, not decisions. You're not navigating the world. You're navigating a simulation of your preferences, tailored to your weaknesses. Individuation, in Jung's sense, becomes nearly impossible in a system built to flatten complexity into marketable traits. So where does that leave you? If you want autonomy, you have to fight for it, not with rebellion, but with radical self-awareness. Read Carl Jung. Study the shadow. Watch your habits like a hawk. Ask yourself, did I choose this or was I trained into it? Because the real battle isn't against machines. It's against the part of you that prefers not to know. And if you've read this far, then maybe, just maybe, you're ready to start looking. You can't fight what you refuse to see. And now that you've seen it, the real question is, what are you going to do with this awareness? Will you keep feeding the loop, or will you step out of it? Because the system isn't slowing down. It's evolving, adapting, burrowing deeper into your habits and emotions. But here's the thing. The moment you become aware, the spell breaks. And from that place, you can finally start choosing, truly choosing. So ask yourself, how much of your behavior today was yours, and how much was subtly installed by something else? How many of your impulses are echoes of algorithms, and how many come from your inner voice? This isn't just about quitting social media. It's about reclaiming the human mind, one conscious act at a time. If you want to practice resistance, start with reflection. Track your own behavior. Delete one app. Read Jung. Meditate. Ask harder questions. Change the loop by stepping out of it. And now I turn it over to you. What part of your digital life feels like it's no longer yours? What truth hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts below. I read everything. And if you want more content like this to keep piercing the illusion, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This isn't just a channel, it's a wake-up call. And you're not alone in this fight.